Hello, welcome everyone. Okay, just letting everybody in. Hi everyone, do you want to just say hi in the chat box and let everyone know where you are today? Okay. Okay, so we've got people from Myanmar, Sudan, Italy, Saudi Arabia, London. Hi everyone, Kurdistan, Melbourne, everywhere. Great. Hi everyone. Okay. Okie dokie. All right, so we'll be starting in a moment. And today we're going to be looking at listening B for the OET exam. Right. Okay, well, I'm going to get started. And as people come in, we can continue. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at listening B. So I've got some tips and strategies for you, as well as some self-study ideas. So just a couple of things. Please don't forget to follow us on YouTube. We've got loads of videos and preparation tips on there for you. So please do go and subscribe, because we're posting loads of videos each week, and we've got a new season coming up soon as well. So the link is in the chat box. Click on that and hit subscribe. Just a few things. Obviously, as you've all found the chat box, we'll be using the chat, polls and Q&A. So chat will be when I ask you some questions and ask you to write in the chat box. The polls will be for questions that I will answer at the end of the session. So if you have any questions about listening B or anything else, OET, you can put that, sorry, that's for the Q&A. Polls is for activities in the class, okay? So I'll be asking you some questions and you'll be choosing A, B, or C. So you choose the option and click submit. And yes, Q&A is for all questions listening B or OET. We'll answer these questions at the end. So you just click on the Q&A, type your question, and we'll look at those, as many as we can, at the end of the session. Don't forget, the next live lesson on Thursday is with Bethan, and she's going to be taking you through OET speaking, and specifically the assessment criteria. So don't miss that. All right, the link is in the chat box now for you to register. Okay, so in today's session, we're going to look at the challenges of listening B, some strategies you can use, and some ideas for self-study. So first of all, I'm going to launch a poll. Okay, there are 3 questions. And what I would like you to do is to tell me what you know about listening B. So there are 3 options for each question. Choose the one that you think is correct. Okay, so you should have it on your screen now. So choose the options now that you think is correct. So there's 3 questions in total. Okay. Yep, so I see people choosing the options. Great. Very interesting. Okay, just another minute and then we'll go through the answers. Don't forget to click submit. Okay. All right, let's have a little look. So we'll share results. So most people went 6 different audios. Most people went can be a colleague-to-colleague interaction, and most people went the speakers could be male to male or female to female or male to female. Well, let's have a little look at the answers. So the first one is you hear 6 different audios. So there's 6 separate contexts with 6 separate questions. So they're not connected. So if you do badly in question 1, it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect you for question 2, 3, 4, for example. Now, the audio of the list of listening B, they're not always a dialogue. It can be a dialogue or a monologue. It can be colleague-to-colleague interaction, or it might be professional and patient, but it's not always patient and professional. That's listening A. Which one is always true is B. One speaker is always female and one speaker is always male when there's a dialogue. This is to help you distinguish between the 2 speakers. So that's a useful hint, a useful tip, I think, for listening B, that you know it's changing person when it goes to a female or male voice. All right. So listening format, obviously you've got listening A, listening B, listening C. Listening B is about 10 minutes long, okay? And it's 3 option multiple choice questions. So there's 6 different extracts, as I said, about 1 minute each, and there are 6 multiple choice questions. So each question has A, B, C options, and each extract's on a different topic and setting. You always get the instructions to explain what's going to happen. And this is for questions 25 to 30. Choose the answer A, B, or C, which fits according to what you hear. And before each question and options, you've always got the context. For example, here you hear a nurse explaining wound care to a patient. So you can get your brain ready for what you're about to hear. So there are different types of questions you might be asked. One of them is gist questions. So it could be something like, what are the doctors discussing? And it's asking you, the main idea of what you're hearing, the gist. So it's quite a general question. Or they might ask you a more specific question, which we call detailed questions. So for example, what symptom has the patient recently developed? So this is asking specifically for one detail. Or it might be the course of action. What's going to happen next? Yeah. What will the nurse do today? So this is what it looks like. So each extract has a question. So what does she explain to the patient? And 3 possible answers to choose from. So you have time to read each question before you listen. Okay, it's about, 8 seconds, something like that. It's not very long, but it's enough time to read through. And you color in the circle with a pencil to mark your answer. Okay. So talking about the type of audios you hear. So whereas listening A is always patient professional consultation, B can be many different types. So it can be, for a start, one person speaking or an interaction. There'll be different healthcare settings, not just one. And each extract is a different topic and different setting. You only hear the recording once. Here are some example contexts. So it could be a healthcare worker talking to a colleague, talking to a patient, talking to a carer, talking to a manager, yeah. Could be a manager talking to staff. For example, it could be handover briefings at the end of shift. Often it's giving information, or it might be giving feedback to colleagues. It could be between trainee doctor and his supervisor, for example, or it might be discussing or addressing a patient's concerns. So it's all scenarios in the workplace context. Okay. Now, something to bear in mind is that the setting could be for any of the 12 professions. So do be prepared to hear something relating to dentistry, physiotherapist, or podiatry, for example. Yeah, it's not just going to be nursing or medicine, okay, or a hospital context, but you don't need any specialist knowledge. So tell me, in the chat box, what do you guys find difficult about listening B? So pop in the chat box anything you find difficult about listening B. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got accent, fast speaking, distractors. Yep, absolutely. Okay, sometimes the options look the same. Time management, sometimes you miss the questions. Yeah. Okay, and only hearing it once. Yes. So there's quite a lot of challenges with listening B. Here's a few that have come up with me and my students. So there's not a long time to read the questions and options. So you have to read quite fast. Distractors. So all the options might be mentioned, but maybe only one of them's answering the question. Paraphrasing. So obviously the options are not explained exactly in the same way. They use different wording. Accent. Yeah, absolutely. You only listen once. They sometimes speak quite quickly, and you might not know some of the vocabulary. So there's quite a lot of challenges or things to think about when you're doing listening B. So something to think about is the language. So the language used in listening B questions and options is usually quite formal and professional. However, the language you hear might be more informal. So for example, on the question paper, it might say observe, but in the audio, you might hear keep an eye on. Another example, in the question paper, you might see assess pulmonary function. Whereas in the audio, you might hear, see how their lungs are working. Yeah, so you have to be prepared for this. So another poll, I have some vocabulary questions for you. So I've got some formal verbs, and then there are 3 options of their more informal equivalent. What I would like you to do is to choose the word which means the same. Okay, so choose the informal verb that matches the formal verb. Okay, I shall be quiet while you have a think and submit your answers. Okay, I can see everybody voting now. Some of them might be similar, but not quite the same. which is what often happens in listening B and reading B, is they'll put things that are quite similar but not exactly the same. Okay, just another quick minute and then we'll look at the answers. All right, let's have a look. I'm just going to share the results. So as you can see, most people have gone for noticeable, meaning the same as marked. Most people have gone for take another look, and most people have gone for redo a test. So yes, those are the correct answers. So a marked, the adjective marked means noticeable. Yes, so if you say, for example, the patient has made a marked improvement, it's a noticeable improvement. To review is to take another look. Yes, you might record any significant findings during the review and you might make notes on any changes, but the actual verb to review means to take another look. And repeat an investigation is definitely redo a test. So it's do it again. Okay. So strategies for listening B. So you've obviously got the context. So that's the first thing you do. Prepare your brain for what you're about to hear. So you hear a nurse explaining wound care to a patient. Then look at the question. What does she explain to the patient? Then read the options and notice the differences between them. And you need to do this before you listen because you just can't do it while you're listening. And make sure that you listen to all of the audio before marking your answer. Yeah, you can maybe hold your pencil next to the one that you think it is, but wait, because it might mention something and then contrast it afterwards. So let's do that for this question. So we're going to actually listen to this. So we're looking at the context first. So you hear a nurse explaining wound care, right? And then we're focused on the question. What does she explain to the patient? So we know here we're listening out for the explanation that's given to the patient. And now let's look at the differences between the three options. And it's a good idea to sort of underline the key words as you're reading to focus you on the main points and the key words. So the first one is she's explaining why the dressing will be used at home. B is specifically talking about how to manage the dressing at home, as in, I guess, what to do. And then C is very similar to A, but specifically alginate dressings. Okay, so A and C are quite similar. A is talking about why the specific dressing will be used at home in this instance, yes, with this particular patient, whereas C is a more general answer. It's why alginate dressings are used at home in general. Okay, so there's a few differences there. Okay, let's have a listen and you can pop in the chat at the end which option A, B, C you think is the answer. Okay, so let's have a listen and choose the correct option.
Mrs. Davidson, I've got your new dressings here. I'll explain them to you so you'll know what to do when you go home. The dressings are alginate dressings, and there are a few things you need to know before you use them. The dressings are made of sodium and calcium fibres, which have come from a special seaweed. We're going to use the dressings on the ulcer on your lower leg, as the previous dressings haven't helped to heal the ulcer. Well, alginate dressings are very effective in clearing out wounds without making them dry. They'll also protect your ulcer from harmful bacteria, which can cause infection and stop the wound from healing. There are a few things you need to be aware of when you use these dressings. The first thing is to dampen the dressing with saline to make it easier to remove. The alginate forms a type of gel, which is usually easy to clean off. Cover the alginate dressing with a non-stick pad and change the dressing every 2 to 3 days.
Okay, so pop in the chat box which you think is the right answer, A, B, or C. Okay, everybody's saying B. So shall we see if that's the right answer?
Mrs. Davis?
Yes, it is. Great. So I think that was quite clear that the majority of the speech was the explanation about how to use the dressing. It says here, I've got your new dressings here. I'll explain them to you so you know what to do when you go home. So the idea of managing the dressings is used at home. She then goes on to say what kind of dressings they are. And then later at the end, the instructions are given on how to manage the dressing. If we look at why the other options are incorrect, so it talks about the dressings, but not why they're going to be used at home. And again, the alginate dressings, it does mention about why alginate dressings are used, why they're effective, but not as to why they're used in the home. So that's why they're not the correct option. Okay. So let's put those strategies into practice. I've got 2 more examples for you to have a look at. So let's look at question 27. So notice the context first. Okay, so you hear a nurse giving a handover about a patient who's had a total knee replacement. And it's what does the nurse emphasize? Okay, so what needs to be happening? Is it the need to check the operation site for bleeding? Does she emphasize the amount of bleeding from the operation site, so the amount of bleeding there already is? Or does she emphasize the reinforcement of the patient's dressing? So have a listen and pop in the chat which one you think is the correct answer.
Hi Ruth, I'll hand over Mr. Johns now. He had a right total knee replacement yesterday morning. He's off the PCA now and taking oral analgesia regularly. He's having Oromorph, 10 milligrams, 2 to 4 hourly, which is holding the pain well. The physio managed to get him up for his first walk with crutches, and he was able to take a few steps. After his walk, I noticed quite a bit of bleeding from the incision site. I reinforced the dressing and encouraged him to elevate his leg. He's had his leg up for the past hour, and it seems to be doing the trick. Could you check it for me after handover, please? If the bleeding hasn't stopped, you'll need to take down the dressing and check for the bleeding site.
So pop in the chat which one you think is the right answer. Okay, so let's have a little look.
Hi Ruth.
All right, the correct answer is A. It's here at the end. So obviously they just said, you know, I noticed a bit of bleeding, done, but not emphasizing the need to do anything with this. It's, I've done this. Could you check it for me after handover, please? If the bleeding hasn't stopped, you'll need to take down the dressing and check for the bleeding site. Okay, so by asking the nurse to do something here, which she's emphasizing the need to check it. Okay, there's no emphasis with the noticing of the bleeding. Okay. Let's do one more. So I'm going to be quiet here. I'm not going to say anything. Use the strategies. Notice the context, the question, and the differences between the options. I'll give you a few seconds to read through first. Okay, let's listen.
I'll just go through the protocol for Mr. Stanford's mitomycin bladder installation, which he'll be having on Thursday.
Okay, thanks.
You'll need to make sure that pharmacy receives the order for the mitomycin and confirms that it'll be ready for collection tomorrow. They need as much notice as possible.
Right. This is the order here. Okay, I'll make sure that goes off today.
Mr. Stanford is aware that he has to restrict his fluid intake 4 hours before the procedure to minimise dilution of the mitomycin. The procedure is booked for 10 a.m. He also knows not to take his morning diuretic.
Okay.
Can you please check his urine before the procedure and report any nitrates in his urine? If there is a chance that he has a UTI, they'll have to postpone the chemotherapy.
Sure.
So once again, pop in the chat which one you think is the right answer. Spoke quite quickly in that one. Okay, most of you are saying B. Let's have a look. The answer is B, absolutely. So you go through quite a lot of things here, but says, can you please check his urine before the procedure and report any nitrates? So it's important to do this. So stressing the importance, because it says if there's a chance he has a UTI, they'll have to postpone the chemotherapy. Yes, it does talk about fluid before, but it doesn't say anything about a fluid balance chart during the procedure. It does talk about diluting the fluid, but not that the nurse needs to do that. She's saying that he has to restrict his fluid intake so that the fluid's not diluted. So option B is the correct option. Okay. So listening B, ideas for preparing. If you're currently working in an English speaking environment, practice. Just listen to what people are saying. You can watch healthcare training videos on the internet, on YouTube. It's a good idea to create a list of verbs commonly used in the workplace, which are usually quite formal, and learn their meaning. So here are a few examples, like identify, confirm, prioritize. Make sure you're comfortable with these verbs. Okay. You could also get access to SLC's digital course, Reach OETB. We've got a great section on listening here. So focusing on listening B, there's loads of great stuff in there. There's lots of language used in workplace communication that will help you with vocabulary. There's lots of mini extracts and also test practice as well. So do check it out. The course is on our website. Also improving your general listening skills. So just listen to medical podcasts, watch TED Med talks. If possible, attend any online medical conferences or webinars in English that you might hear about. Anything you can do to listen will improve your listening. So quick summary of top tips. Use the context for reference, underline the keywords, and listen to the whole audio before you choose your answers. Okay. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function and submit your questions. We have time for a few, not long, but I'll do my best to answer as many as possible. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A section. Okay. Okay, so any questions, please pop in the Q&A. In the Q&A box, not the chat box. Okay. In the Q&A box, not the chat box. Okay. So we've got one. Which score should I get during practice so that I would guarantee that I'll get a score B? Well, we do not have that information because OET do not publish that information. So we can't tell you the answer to that, I'm afraid. However, what OET have said is if you're consistently getting over 70% in your OET practice, you've got a good chance. Okay. There's a question about spelling. Is it important in listening? Well, obviously listening B and C, no, because you just choose the options. But in listening A, it can be. So in listening A, if it's just one letter that's wrong, they might let you off. But for example, if you put a plural and they said a singular, you would get the answer wrong. Okay. All right. We have a question about how long I need to prepare for OET. That's a very good question and a very difficult question to answer. It really depends. It depends on your level. So what we'd recommend doing is a level test. We can help you with that. If you get in contact with us, just check out our website. If you've got a very high level of English, you should need a shorter time to do it, but it does still take time to go through all the different papers and answer the things. If you've got a lower level of English, we recommend improving your general English before starting your OET preparation. I have a question about extending my Reach OET online practice timeframe. Is going to expire on the 29th of October. I believe you can if you just contact admin@specialistlanguage.com. They should be able to sort that out for you. There might be a small charge, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll put the website, the email address, specialistlanguagecourses.com. All right. I'm entirely new to OET. Why is it called listening B, A, or C? There are 3 parts in the listening paper. Part 1 is called listening A, part 2 is called listening B, and part 3 is called listening C. Go to our YouTube channel. We've got loads of tutorials on the different types of papers, and that will explain everything that you can do there. Okay. In terms of materials for practicing listening, yes, do OET practice tests. Our course Reach OET-B can help you, but we don't recommend only doing practice papers, because if you just keep doing practice paper after practice paper after practice paper, you're unlikely to see any real improvement. If you can get a teacher, that would be great. Listening using free resources on the internet. We've got some tips from videos on our YouTube channel which tell you some ideas on how to improve your listening skills. So check those out. And that will give you some ideas. Okay. I am afraid we are out of time. Okay. But we've got loads of tips and things on the on our website. Yes, it is recorded and we'll be posting it on YouTube soon. Okay. Don't forget Thursday's session with Bethan. Don't forget to follow us, website, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Okay, and check out our website. We've got the perfect preparation course for you. Here's just a few of the things that we can do. Okay, I hope you found that useful, the very short session. Bethan will see you on Thursday to take you for speaking. In the meantime, good luck with your OET preparation. Keep practicing, keep studying hard, and I'll see you soon. Bye everyone. Bye-bye.